Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Today we're going to take a look at remote starters for generators. Who might benefit from them, what companies make them, the positives to them, and of course, the negatives. And also, the most underrated feature of a remote starter, in my opinion. All right, so first off, let's talk about who might actually need a remote starter for a generator. Probably the biggest user is RV users because they're the type that turn it on, turn it off all the time. They travel around, they always have it attached or very close to their RV. They're inside, they want to turn it on. Time for bed, they want to turn it off. Number one, if you have an RV, a remote starter is a great idea for a generator. Number two, folks that have off-grid properties like cabins, you're there sometimes, you have to set the generator up, then you can shut it down, turn it on, turn it off. You're only there for short periods of time and you want to have control of that. Number three would be somebody who leaves their generator set up all the time. Now that might be if you live in an area where you're frequented by power outages, or you want to have it set up for your wife or your husband while you're traveling. If you leave it set up and hooked up to your fuel supply and ready to go at all times, then yeah, you might want to have a remote start. Number four would be folks who are already in a prolonged power outage. So if you've already had it up and running, then yeah, you might want to have that remote starter, click the button and get it going again once you've already had it up and put eyes on it. Number five, somebody who has a large solar bank. If you run most of your power off of a battery bank that's charged by solar panels, and quite often the sun goes out and you can't get it charged up, having a remote starter would be so nice for that. Number six, construction site managers. If you're the type that shows up in the morning, you know everything's been hooked up from the night before and all you need to do is turn your generator on, it's going to save you a little bit of time. You can just click your button from your office. Number seven, event managers. So if you're the type that runs, short-term events like music festivals, that sort of thing, and you need control to turn it on, turn it off at the end of the day, a remote starter might be great for that. And then number eight would be anybody with mobility issues. So somebody who really struggles getting up and down the stairs, somebody who's in a wheelchair, then yes, a remote starter might be great for that. So what are some of the benefits and considerations of a remote starter? Well, the first thing I want to say is there's a difference between a remote starter, like a push button key fob, and a whole home transfer switch for something like a whole home Generac. We're not talking about that today. That's something that automatically turns on your generator, sets up your power for you, and turns on within a blink of an eye as soon as mains power shuts off. So one of the big considerations, of course, is you need to make sure that your generator is hooked up, set up to fuel, the choke's in the right place, the on switch is in the right place, everything's set up so that you can just push a button and turn it on. I would say really a remote starter for most people is just a really cool bonus. If you don't fall into the category of must-have for some of the other folks, then it's just an extra thing to get. If you're deciding between two identical generators and one has remote start and one doesn't, we'll go for the one with remote start. Another feature that most people don't necessarily think about, and I talk about all the time, but if you have ne'er-do-wells in your area, you need to make sure you have it secured. Some people just chain it to the ground. Other people like to put it in, say, a locked storage container. What's the beauty of this? Once it's been up and running and you shut it off, you can just turn it on with a push of button without having to unlock the door. It's also really good for somebody who maybe doesn't know how to start the generator properly. So say you're a husband or a wife who travels for work and there's a chance that the weather could be really crappy while you're gone. Well, you can have everything set up and ready to go, and then the person inside, if the power does go out, just is required to hit a push of a button in order to start it. Another benefit to a remote starter is the fact that it eliminates you needing to physically touch the generator in order to start it, eliminating one more chance of something going wrong on the safety side. Means you don't have to touch a generator when it's wet and electricity's running through it. Also, if you're concerned that you may need it through the night or you may need it over the next couple of days, you're able to hit that button, start it up, and have it warmed and primed just in case the power does go out. So we covered the upside to a remote starter. What are the downside or the disadvantages to having a remote start? Well, I guess the big one is most generators, or basically all generators on the market, recommend getting started without a load on them. In most of the instances, I recommended having a remote start for your generator. You're already going to have a load plugged in. So it may shorten the life of your generator ever so slightly. Two, I talk about preparedness all the time and the need to put eyes, ears, and a nose inspection on things so that you solve problems before they become really big problems. With a remote starter, you're eliminating the eyes. You're not putting your eyes on it that often. So problems could become much bigger if you're not going there physically and looking at your generator. The worst problem that can come along with remote start is they all come with those damn little key fobs. Easy to break, even easier to lose, and I bet you they're very difficult to replace. So what do? You got to hold on to them. Most of them only come with one. Whenever I buy a new vehicle, I always make sure I get two from the dealer. I would much prefer the companies integrate Bluetooth support with these so that you can turn them on and turn them off with a push a button from your phone, because it's much less likely to lose a phone that you use every day all the time than a key fob you only need when the power goes out. So what is the most underrated feature of a remote starter for a generator? Well, I would say that it's actually the ability to shut off your generator, not turn it on. And what's the reason for that? You don't need to be at it to shut it off. When I was living in my off-grid cabin for a couple of months last spring in Tennessee, what I loved being able to do was shut off my solar generator using an app on my phone. Once you're comfortable, laying in bed, ready to go to sleep, the last thing you want to have to do is get up, go out in the cold, wet, nasty weather, and hit an off switch. So the ability to shut it off, to me, is probably more important than being able to turn it on. So you might say, Tim, I already have an existing generator. Can I add a remote starter to my generator? Short answer is yes. Long answer is, I probably wouldn't do it. On the market right now, there's two main ones that I've run across recently. People sell ones for Honda because Honda doesn't seem to have any remote starters for their portable generators yet. And of course for Predator. There's been a whole company that has done wheel kits, remote starters for Predator for a long time. However, Harbor Freight is starting to respond to that, and they're building upgraded wheel kits and remote starters. Those are both plug and play. If you have a different brand of a generator, you can also buy generic ones off of Amazon or from other third-party suppliers that you can then open up your wiring and wire it in yourself. My big problem with that, of course, is, number one, you're opening up and tinkering with the wiring, something that's supposed to supply you with electricity. Number two, you might be voiding the warranty. So here's my thoughts on this. If you're in the market for a remote start for a generator, if you look at the price of these, they're $200 to $400 right now. What I would do, I would sell my used generator, take that money and put it toward a new generator, something like this right here. You'll see a review coming up for this down the road. This is the new Predator dual fuel inverter generator that has remote start built in. So I would just sell my old generator, chalk up the money I was going to spend for an aftermarket remote starter, and buy one of these for about $1,100 right now. There's cheaper ones, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. So can you get an aftermarket or a third party? Yeah, you can. Is it worth it? In my mind, not really. Is it a make or break feature? I don't think so for me. It would be if you're in a certain category of people who need a generator for a very specific purpose. However, it's a great feature that I love seeing companies bringing it in as kind of the standard, kind of like when they added power steering. Yes, I know I'm old. To vehicles. Now that remote start's coming to the smaller companies, you're probably going to see it with Generac and Honda a lot more. I like it becoming a standard feature. So I hope that look at remote starts on generators maybe helped or informed you just a little bit. And if you're heading down the rabbit hole of figuring out, hey, what kind of generator setup do I need for my house, that sort of thing, check out this video right here I did on how to size and how to choose a generator for your home. And if you stuck around to the end of this video, well, thanks, I really appreciate it. I made it just for you. And I got a ton of other content just like that. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, stick around. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.